Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from a new subreddit for us, r/TalesFromTheJob. Just a reminder for those of you listening and watching on Spotify today, if you rotate your phone, you can now get video on Spotify as well. We upload the same video to YouTube as we do to Spotify, and we hope you enjoy it on both platforms. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Eek the Cat. Careful what you say in front of people you do not know. Back around 2001, I was interviewing for a startup company where I was going to be flying to customer sites, doing equipment installs, staying for a day to make sure everything was working, and fly home. So fly out Monday, stay until Thursday, and fly home Friday. The interview went really well. They asked me to step out so they could discuss a few things. I went to the break room, which literally was walls that had not been completed and 2 fold-out tables, and waited for them to come get me. An overly smug individual walked in and started bragging to another guy about landing another 5 customers. His buddy asked how they were going to handle 5 new customers when they hadn't even completed the install for the first 7. Smug sales guy replied that they were interviewing some idiot that was going to have to work straight through without a break until all of the customer installs were complete. About that time, he noticed me and asked me who I was. I replied that I was the idiot they were trying to hire to do all of the work he just mentioned. The look on his face was priceless as he realized he was actually the idiot. He started to try to say something, but the interviewer came to get me and took me back into the office. They made an offer, to which I immediately countered with a number 3 times higher, stating that I knew they did not have anyone else to do the work, and that I was going to be stuck traveling for the next 3 months without a break. They all just stood staring at me and blinking. The owner said he could not afford that, but they would make it up later with a bonus once the company got going. I told them no thank you and left. 2 months later, I found out that the company had folded because multiple customers canceled their orders. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Spin81. It says, you mean the bonus that he was definitely going to remember and that you could absolutely hold him to even though you didn't get it in writing? I wish that every job that you went for an interview at, you could actually spend a little bit of time with people who actually do the job that you're applying for, just to see what the general consensus is on how the place runs and how good of a job it actually is. But unfortunately, things don't generally work that way, so we kind of go in blind and we get thrown whatever they want to throw at us. This story comes to us from ZestyClothesGur7917. When I forced myself to do interviews in the depths of my depression, I found a remote job and my salary more than doubled. For a very long time, I was stuck in a graphic designer job in Kentucky, making only $38,000 a year after 9 years with the same company. I started with them right after I graduated. I had been looking for a job since September because they made it very clear that they had no intention of increasing my salary to be competitive with the market. Since I lived in a state that is the 4th lowest in average income, my expectations were honestly on the floor. I did a few interviews and got one offer that wasn't much better, so I continued applying for jobs until February. Then, around April, my depression and anxiety got really bad, and the mere thought of preparing for an interview was very difficult for me. About a week later, I got an email for an interview for a remote designer position in another state. I was about to reject it immediately and cancel because I was terrified that if the interview went poorly, my mental state would worsen. Thankfully, my partner convinced me to go, telling me, "What do you have to lose? Just consider it practice." So I reluctantly agreed to the first call. The interview itself was average, but I had a very pleasant conversation with the recruiter, which really got me excited about the company. The best part? They said the salary was in the $65,000 to $70,000 range. I couldn't believe it. I never imagined I could break the $55,000 barrier anytime soon. A few weeks later, they emailed me to schedule a second interview. By this time, thankfully, my new medication had started to take effect, and I was in a much better mental state. That interview went great, and after speaking 2 more times with different people from the team, they sent me an offer for $75,000 a year. I accepted on the spot, and I'm starting in 2 weeks. It's strange when I think about it, but I guess the lesson is that you have to take the risk even when you feel like you can't. You never know what might happen. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Piggy Pogdog. It says, "Wow, this is fantastic. The fact that you interacted with the interviewer made a huge difference in the interviews. When I was doing recruitment, I told the prospectives always have a chat and ask questions about the job. It shows interest. Most of my people got the positions." Another commenter down below called Echo said, "Congratulations. Very proud of you for pushing through the depression and making it to the other side stronger." What OP is saying in this one is absolutely true. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There also seems to be a lot more opportunities out there for qualified people for jobs where they can work from home, even when that company's headquarters isn't in the same state or province, or sometimes even country that you live in. So at this point, it's just a case of go out there, find what you can find online, apply for everything, do the interviews, because you never know when one of them's gonna pop up and change your life for the better. This story comes to us from Accomplished Move 382. "Just had the worst and best interview of my career within 48 hours. I've been in the tech world for almost 25 years, specializing in hardware and software systems. A couple of weeks ago, I had a virtual interview with a hiring manager from AMD for a senior systems architect role. It was a 60-minute slot, and he showed up 15 minutes late. His first and only question about my entire career was, 'Walk me through your proudest achievement at your latest company.' That was it. No follow-up, no digging into my resume. It felt like he hadn't even glanced at it. Then we moved to a systems design problem. I laid out a simple, elegant solution in a couple of minutes. He immediately shut it down, saying that wasn't the approach he wanted. As I tried to work through it in his preferred, more convoluted way, I could see him on camera just typing furiously, clearly distracted by emails or Slack. He wasn't engaged at all. I tried explaining my thought process, but it was like talking to a wall. Right at the 60-minute mark, he cut me off mid-sentence and said, 'We're out of time, I have to run, the recruiter will be in touch,' and just disconnected. I was floored. Seriously, I sat there staring at the black screen. That experience completely tanked my mood for the rest of the day. We had a movie night planned with the family, and I couldn't even follow the plot. I felt totally dejected and disconnected, and honestly, I woke up the next morning still feeling worthless. Fast forward to today, I had an interview with a manager at Google. It was a night and day difference. The interviewer was fantastic, super engaged, explained the team's goals and challenges, and we spent a solid hour going through my experience over the last 2 decades. It felt less like an interview and more like a collaborative, two-way conversation about how my skills could help them solve their problems. He was genuinely interested and respectful. I left the call feeling energized and valued, completely turning my week around. It just goes to show you that a bad interview is often a reflection of the interviewer, not you. It's so easy to let one person's terrible attitude make you doubt yourself, but you have to just shake it off and keep going. The right fit is out there. OP mentioned that in the first interview, the interviewer was on camera and they could see that they were clearly distracted through the whole interview. That would indicate to me that they're really not interested in me and they're just doing the interview because, well, I was on the list and they have to do it. Being completely honest, I probably wouldn't have stayed in that interview call. I would have dropped out when I realized that they weren't paying any attention to what I was doing, and it seemed like they'd already made up their mind about me. In the comments, there was somebody who said that it feels really good when somebody actually pays attention to you, and this is very true. The second interviewer that OP had was wonderful, made OP feel like a person, and that is the way that every interview should go. This story comes to us from a deleted account. Tales from a burnt out public defender. I'm a public defender in a mid-sized city, and my job is basically herding cats who commit crimes. Most cases are sad or messy, drugs, theft, domestic issues, but sometimes you get one so ridiculous, it feels like the universe is pranking you. I'm feeling a little burnt out, so I'm here to share some stories, and this story was so ridiculous, I had to share it, with identifying details removed. So a while back, I get assigned this guy, let's call him Butterboy, charged with grand larceny. Was told client stole butter. I'm thinking it's a stolen car, or maybe some shoplifting and an error in the system. Nope, Butterboy stole over 40 tons of butter. Yes, butter, the stuff you put on toast. Not drugs, not cash, not gold bars, butter. I had to read the file twice to make sure it wasn't a typo. Butterboy worked at a warehouse for a distributor, handling shipping and receiving. For some time, he marked a ton of butter as damaged in shipping every few days, then loaded it into his van after hours. We're talking industrial pallets of butter. He sold it to sketchy corner stores and even a restaurant or two. The company's insurance covered the losses for a while, but when the numbers got too crazy, they checked security cameras and swipe card logs. Surprise, Butterboy's on tape, waltzing in like he's in a heist movie. The evidence is stacked, camera footage, swipe logs, even a store owner who flipped and ratted him out. Prosecutors are out for blood because it's technically organized crime. Dozens of others got charged for receiving stolen butter. The prosecutor is seeking imprisonment because the reality is, he stole goods valued in the hundreds of thousands. Managed to get Butterboy a plea deal for reduced imprisonment, and he returned whatever remained of the cash from his black market butter smuggling ring. If people are interested, I might post some more, minus identifying details. Anyone else had a client who turned a dairy product into a crime spree? Was anybody else thinking that this would have paired up really nicely with that Canadian maple syrup heist from many years back? Now you just need to find somewhere to get some waffles from. Now on this one, OP did say they would post more if people wanted them, and undeniably in the comments, everybody was asking for more. So our next story is from the same OP. Again, it is a deleted account. It's titled, Tales from a Burnt Out Public Defender, Part 2. People seem to like my last post, so here's a second one. I'm going to take a break, but I might be back after a bit. A long time ago, before practice, I used to believe there was a bottom line for terrible life choices. I no longer believe in this. This guy, let's call him Jesse Pinkman, wins the award for the stupidest move I've ever seen. Jesse's charged with possession of substances for distribution, plus evading police. At first, I assumed it was a botched traffic stop, but I was entirely wrong. Originally, old Jesse's casually cruising with over a pound of substances in his car. As he's driving, he spots a cop car chilling on the roadside. Two cops are inside minding their own business. Does he drive by quietly? Nope. He pulls up next to them, rolls down his window, and screams, "F the police!" honks his horn, and throws double middle fingers like he's channeling a punk rock riot. Jesse, clearly born without brain cells, does a small skid burnout, provoking one of the cops to get out to ticket him. Immediately as the cop gets out, he slams the accelerator and tries to zip off. Cops get back in the car and give chase, sirens wailing, and it's a full-on car chase. There's even helicopter footage. They box him in after a short chase, search the car in full, and find the substances in the boot. The worst part is, even if he just did a burnout then got ticketed, he still likely wouldn't have had his car searched. There were at least 3 choices to double down to reach this point. Not only that, but now his phone had been seized, and police obtained a warrant to go through his digital communications. When I met him in the courthouse cells, his face made it clear he knew he messed up. I asked why he taunted the cops with a felony's worth of substances. His answer? I still don't know. To this day, I still wonder if he's naturally this stupid, or if it's substance-induced. His associates initially retained a private lawyer, but once they found out what happened, told him they weren't helping him out. Clearly, they were very supportive of his escapade. However, because of this back and forth, we used up even more of my time than necessary. Thankfully, he took a plea deal. He was caught in HD on multiple angles. There was sub-zero hope of running this in a trial, and no, he didn't get bail. So if at any point you think you did a dumb butt move, just remember, you, probably, never intentionally provoked police into arresting you for substance supply. Jumping into the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Irish Spice. It says, "Stupid people are gonna stupid." You know, I've heard stories of this one before where people do stupid things right beside police when they have stuff in the car that people really wouldn't want to be caught with. But sometimes they're just the distraction and the decoy car for the bigger car that's traveling with tons of product. If they can keep that police officer busy and the main car with the tons of product makes it through, well, they've done their job. and they're expendable. So yeah, they go to jail and the main product still makes it through. Just food for thought on that one, although we have no idea if that's how this was going or not. This story comes to us from Muted Humor 9507. My messy 40-year-old boss tried to date a young new hire. For context, the store manager of this place was hated by his wife and would constantly air out his dirty laundry. I even once heard him on the phone with his wife, and cannot make this up, his wife literally said, "I hear you eating, you dirty pig. I'm not making dinner now, the kids and I are eating leftovers." One day, a pretty young lady came in to eat, and the store manager immediately runs to the register to take her order, and does not let anyone else assist her. This man is literally thirsting over her, and he had a wife and 2 kids. At the time, we weren't hiring, but out of the blue, a job opening is available, and he goes to deliver her food at her table and starts insisting she works here because we are short-staffed. The lady then says, "That's very useful as I'm searching for a job and recently graduated high school." The manager responds, "Yes, please, come work here. What size shirt do you want?" As he says this, he literally looked down at her chest. I was shocked. This poor girl. So 5 days later, she's in uniform and is being trained. And several months later, she ends up becoming my boss and being promoted to a team lead. I was jealous because I had worked there longer, but she did prove herself to the district manager and corporate when they came to audit and do performance reviews. I will admit, her promotion was well earned. Despite this, not everyone seemed to see how great of a leader she was, because the store manager would constantly be disrespectful to everyone else and degrade your looks and intelligence and compare them to this TL when she wasn't around. So there were definitely others' feelings involved about favoritism. My store manager became more aggressive with our newly promoted TL and demanded she work more hours, which she did, and even was forced to work while she was sick. One day, I came into work 2 to 10 p.m. shift, and I was putting my things into my locker when I heard the store manager cursing her out through the phone, saying, "You B, what do you mean you can't come to work?" Later that day, TL shows up and she's extremely sick and seems very upset about something. The TL goes into the store manager's office. I become worried for her and ask what's wrong once the store manager had left for the day and if there's anything I can do. She was extremely sick, so I get her some water while she calms down. After, she then starts to tell me how sick she's become and that the store manager constantly calls her on her days off and says he wants to chat as friends and has a trip to Vegas planned for the 2 of them, which she was extremely uncomfortable about and told him to never call her again. Apparently, this did not work because he started to message her saying there was a work emergency and she needed to come in and she'd get overtime, which she accepts and confesses to me that her check had been coming short and missing hours. Not only this is a problem, but also the store manager had kissed her while she was working and was getting ice from the machine to fill up the soda machines. My jaw dropped. The poor young TL was being taken advantage of, and the entire time, the store manager had painted a picture of her and turned others against her. Another TL shows up for their 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift and asked to have her go home because of her illness. After she left, I never saw her again. After a month passed, a different ex-employee had filed a lawsuit in which they found evidence that the store manager was, after all, adjusting overtime hours and not paying employees for their overtime. This store manager's workdays were being counted, and he had the worst luck while he was being investigated. A homeless person literally took flight, went over the counter, and knocked the store manager one. Several associates said that was the best day of work. Alright, this one was all over the place, but let's just focus in on one thing here. OP knew that this TL was having issues with the manager, and the manager was making inappropriate advances, even to the point where he kissed her, and she didn't want to be kissed. OP, why the heck did you not report this to somebody above your manager? That's absolute BS that you just sat there and did nothing, and then wrote a story on it later on. I mean, come on. If you're on YouTube or on Spotify, let me know what you thought about this one. I think we'll end this one here though. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. If you're on Spotify, please give us a 5-star review. It really does help us in the Spotify algorithm. I thank each and every one of you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.